Story 1. 3 years ago, after my parents passed away, I inherited their lakeside cabin in a popular tourist area about 2 hours from where I live. It was a beautiful property with 3 bedrooms, a spacious deck overlooking the water, and a private dock. The place held so many childhood memories, but with my job in the city and limited time off, I couldn't justify keeping it just for occasional personal use. After much consideration, I decided to list it on Airbnb. The extra income helped cover the property taxes, maintenance, and even funded some upgrades that made the place even more appealing to guests. I installed a smart lock system that allowed me to manage check-ins remotely, set up security cameras around the exterior, none inside, of course, and hired a local cleaner who prepared the place between bookings. Everything was running smoothly until last weekend. I had rented the cabin to a family of 4 who were celebrating their parents' 30th wedding anniversary. They seemed like lovely people during our pre-booking communications, and I was happy the cabin would host such a special occasion. I was at home in the city when I received a call from an unknown number. Thinking it might be related to the rental, I answered, "Woman. Hello, I'm outside your cabin and the code you gave me isn't working." Me. "I'm sorry, but who is this? I don't recognize your number." Woman. "This is ridiculous. I've been driving for 3 hours with my kids, and now we can't get in. Fix this immediately." Me. "Ma'am, I need to know who you are. What name was your reservation under?" Woman. "Johnson. We're supposed to check in today for 5 nights. I quickly checked my Airbnb dashboard. There was no reservation under Johnson, and the cabin was currently occupied by the anniversary family. Me. "I'm sorry, but I don't have any reservation under that name. The cabin is currently rented to another family." Woman. "What? That's impossible. I made a reservation weeks ago." Me. "Did you book through Airbnb? I can check if there was a system error." Woman. "I called and spoke to someone. They said it was all set." This was the first red flag. I never take phone reservations, everything goes through the Airbnb platform. Me. "I don't take direct bookings. All reservations must be made through Airbnb. Are you sure you have the right property?" Woman. "Of course I do. It's the blue cabin with the red door at 145 Lakeside Drive." She had the right address, which was concerning. Me. "Well, I can assure you there's no reservation under Johnson, and the cabin is occupied by confirmed guests until Tuesday. I'd be happy to check availability after that, but you'd need to book through the proper channels." Woman. "This is unacceptable. I promised my kids this vacation. We've driven all this way. You need to fix this right now." Me. "There's nothing to fix. You don't have a reservation. I'm sorry for the confusion, but I can't help you." Woman. "Let me speak to your manager." Me. "I am the owner. There is no manager." Woman. "Well, we're not leaving. We'll just wait for these supposed guests to let us in." The conversation was getting nowhere, so I decided to call the current guests to warn them about the situation. The husband answered. Me. "Hi, this is the owner. I wanted to let you know there's a woman outside claiming she has a reservation. She doesn't, but she seems quite insistent. I just wanted to make you aware in case she approaches you." Guest. "Actually, someone has been knocking on the door for the past few minutes. We haven't answered because we weren't expecting anyone." Me. "Please don't open the door. I'll handle this. If she becomes more aggressive, don't hesitate to call the police." I hung up and immediately called the woman back. Me. "Ma'am, I need you to leave the property immediately. You're disturbing my guests." Woman. "No, this is ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere until you fix this." Me. "There's nothing to fix. You don't have a reservation. If you don't leave, I'll have to call the police for trespassing." Woman. "Go ahead. They'll make you honor my reservation." I ended the call and checked the security camera feed on my phone. Sure enough, there was a woman with 2 preteen children on my porch, pounding on the door. I watched in horror as she walked around the side of the house, apparently looking for another way in. I immediately called the local police and explained the situation. They said they'd send an officer over, but it would take about 15-20 minutes since the cabin was in a somewhat remote area. While waiting for the police, I kept an eye on the camera feeds. The woman disappeared from view for a few minutes, and then I got a frantic call from my guests. Guest: someone just broke in through the back door. She's in the house with 2 kids. My heart dropped. The back door had a simpler lock that I'd been meaning to upgrade. Me: I've already called the police. They're on their way. Try to stay calm and keep your distance from her. Don't confront her. I switched to the camera that showed the driveway and saw the woman had parked blocking my guest's car. This was clearly premeditated. I called the police again to update them on the situation, emphasizing that the woman had now broken into the occupied property. They assured me they were almost there. About 10 minutes later, I received another call from my guests. Guest: the police are here. You won't believe what's happening. In the background, I could hear shouting. Woman: this is my reservation. These people are trying to steal it. I have proof. I could hear a calm police officer trying to defuse the situation. Officer: ma'am, I need you to step outside with me so we can sort this out. Woman: no, I'm not leaving. I drove 3 hours for this vacation. Guest: to me, she's showing them some kind of fake confirmation email, but the officer is calling dispatch to verify the property owner. While they were on the phone with me, I heard a commotion, followed by my guest's shocked voice. Guest: oh my God, she just tried to run past the officers. They tackled her in the living room. I could hear the woman screaming about her rights and her children crying in confusion. My heart went out to the kids, who were clearly victims of their mother's entitlement. The officer got on the phone with me, and I explained the situation again, confirming that the family currently in the cabin were my legitimate guests, and that the woman had no reservation whatsoever. I offered to send screenshots of my booking calendar as proof. Officer: that won't be necessary, sir. We've detained the woman for breaking and entering, trespassing, and resisting an officer. Her children are being picked up by their father, who seemed completely mortified when we called him. Apparently, she told him she had booked this cabin as a surprise. I later learned from the police report that the woman had actually found my property on Airbnb, but never completed a booking. She had taken screenshots of the listing and created a fake confirmation email to show her family. Her plan, apparently, was to show up and demand accommodation, assuming I would be too flustered or sympathetic to turn away a family with children. The officers took her away in handcuffs, and I immediately arranged for an emergency repair service to fix the back door she had broken. I also offered my legitimate guests a full refund for their trouble, which they appreciated but only accepted for the one night affected by the incident. The woman was charged with breaking and entering, trespassing, and resisting arrest. She tried to argue in court that there was a misunderstanding about the reservation, but the evidence was overwhelming. She ended up with probation and was ordered to pay for the damages to my property. I've since upgraded all the locks on the cabin and added more security cameras. I also now send a more detailed message to guests before their stay, advising them to be wary of strangers claiming to have reservations and to contact me immediately if anyone tries to enter the property. It's amazing how some people feel so entitled that they think they can just take what they want, even if it means breaking the law and disrupting other people's lives. I'm just grateful that no one was hurt and that the police responded so quickly. And to think, all of this could have been avoided if she had just booked the cabin properly like everyone else. Story 2. I've been a gamer since I was 12 years old. What started as a simple hobby with a second-hand console has evolved into a serious passion. Now, at 32, I've finally built my dream gaming setup after years of saving. My rig is nothing short of spectacular, a custom water-cooled PC with top-of-the-line components, 3 curved monitors, professional gaming chair, mechanical keyboard with custom keycaps, and a high-end headset. All told, it's worth about $8,000, and I'm proud of it. I worked hard for this. Last weekend, my friend from college came over with his mom and teenage brother. My friend and I hadn't seen each other in a while, and he was in town visiting his family. He mentioned he wanted to stop by, and I said sure, not thinking much about who would be coming along. When they arrived, I welcomed them in and offered drinks. My friend's brother, who looked about 14, immediately gravitated toward my gaming setup. Friend's brother, "Whoa, this is so cool, look at these monitors." I smiled, always happy to show off my pride and joy. Me, thanks. Took me years to save up for all of this. My friend was admiring it too, asking questions about the specs and components. His mom, however, was looking at the setup with an expression I couldn't quite read. After a few minutes of us chatting, she interrupted. "Friend's mom, so how much did all this cost?" I hesitated, not really comfortable discussing finances with someone I barely knew, but decided to be polite. Me, it was a significant investment. Probably around $8,000 total, but I built it piece by piece over time. Her eyes widened. "Friend's mom, $8,000? On video games? Aren't you a little old for that?" I laughed it off, used to hearing this kind of comment. Me, gaming isn't just for kids anymore. The average age of gamers is actually in the 30s now. She made a dismissive noise and turned to her younger son, who was still admiring my setup. "Friend's mom, wouldn't you love something like this for your birthday?" The teen nodded enthusiastically. Friend's brother, "It would be the best birthday ever." What happened next still makes my blood boil when I think about it. Friend's mom, "Well, maybe your friend here can give it to you. After all, he's a grown man with a good job. He doesn't need all these toys." The room went silent. My friend looked mortified, his brother confused, and I was simply stunned. Me, "I'm sorry, what?" Friend's mom, "You heard me. You should donate this setup to someone who would really appreciate it, like my son. His birthday is next month, and this would be perfect." My friend finally found his voice. "Friend, mom, you can't just ask someone to give away thousands of dollars of equipment." Friend's mom, "Why not? He can afford to buy another one if he really wants to waste more money on childish things. Besides, it would be the charitable thing to do." I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Me, "I appreciate your son's enthusiasm, but this is my personal property that I worked hard for. I'm not giving it away." Her face turned an alarming shade of red. Friend's mom, "How selfish can you be? You're an adult playing video games while children who actually should be playing them can't afford setups like this. What kind of person are you?" My friend tried to intervene again. "Friend, mom, stop it right now. We're leaving." Friend's mom, "No, not until he agrees to do the right thing. I've raised you better than to associate with selfish people like this." At this point, I'd had enough. Me, "I think it's time for you all to leave. I'm sorry, but this conversation is over." Friend's mom, "Fine, but don't think this is the end of it." My friend practically dragged his mom and brother out, apologizing profusely as they left. I thought that would be the end of this bizarre encounter, but I was wrong. The following Monday, I was at work when my boss called me into his office. I work as an IT specialist for a medium-sized company, and my boss and I have a good relationship. "Boss, so I got an interesting call this morning." He looked more amused than upset, which was reassuring. Me, "Oh?" "Boss, a woman claiming to be your friend's mother called to tell me that I should fire you because you're," and I quote, "selfish, childish, and refuse to donate to children in need." Care to explain? I was mortified but explained the whole situation. By the end, my boss was laughing. "Boss, let me get this straight. She wanted you to give away your $8,000 gaming setup to her teenage son as a birthday present. And when you refused, she tried to get you fired?" Me, "That's exactly what happened." Boss, "Well, for what it's worth, I think your water cooling system sounds impressive. My son's been asking me to help him build something similar. Any recommendations? We spent the next 10 minutes discussing PC builds, and then I went back to work. Later that day, our receptionist informed me that the woman had called 3 more times, but they had been instructed to block her number. My friend called that evening, absolutely devastated. "Friend, I can't believe my mom did that. I am so sorry. I had no idea she would go that far." Me, "It's not your fault. Your mom's actions aren't your responsibility." Friend, "I know, but still, she's been banned from my apartment too. This isn't the first time she's pulled something like this, but it's definitely the worst." We're still friends, though our hangouts now strictly exclude his family. As for my gaming setup, I added some RGB lighting to it last week. After all, I'm never too old for an upgrade. Story 3. I've been living in Oakwood Apartments for almost 3 years now. It's not the fanciest place, but with rent prices these days, it's all I can afford as a freelance graphic designer. The building has its quirks: unreliable hot water, a temperamental elevator, and thin walls that let me know way too much about my neighbors' lives. But all things considered, it was home, and I was comfortable here. Until my packages started disappearing. It began about 6 months ago. I'd get a delivery notification, but when I'd check outside my door or in the building's package area, nothing. At first, I chalked it up to delivery mistakes. Maybe the drivers were leaving them at the wrong apartments. It happens. But as it kept occurring, I started to suspect something else was going on. I work from home, so I order a lot of stuff online. Art supplies, computer equipment, books for reference, not to mention regular household items. It's just more convenient than lugging everything back on the bus. But apparently, not everyone in the building approved of my shopping habits. One day, after 3 packages had gone missing in a single week, I ran into the woman from apartment 3C in the hallway. She was probably in her 50s, with that particular type of highlighted blonde hair that always seems to come with an attitude. I knew her by sight, but had never really spoken to her before. "Woman from 3C, you need to do something about all these deliveries. The hallway isn't a warehouse." I was taken aback. "Excuse me?" "Woman from 3C, all these packages. Every day there's something new for you. The delivery people are always buzzing the intercom, and it's disturbing everyone." "I'm sorry if the deliveries have been bothersome," I said, genuinely confused by her hostility. "But I work from home, so I order." Woman from 3C. "Well, some of us have real jobs and don't want to be disturbed by your constant shopping addiction. It's excessive and selfish." Before I could respond, she stormed off toward the elevator. I stood there, stunned. Was she seriously mad about me? Receiving mail? And what did she mean by real job? My freelance work paid my bills just fine. Thank you very much. The encounter left me feeling uneasy, but I tried to brush it off. People can be strange about the weirdest things. Then, the following week, I ordered an expensive drawing tablet I'd been saving up for. According to the tracking, it was delivered at 2:14 p.m. on Tuesday. I was home all day, but no one ever knocked on my door or buzzed my apartment. By 4 p.m., I was worried enough to check the package area and ask the building manager if he'd seen anything. Nothing. I filed a claim with the shipping company, but they insisted it had been delivered and signed for by someone named R. Collins. That's my name, except I hadn't signed for anything. That's when I knew someone was deliberately taking my packages. Given our recent encounter, I had a strong suspicion about who it might be. But suspicion isn't proof, and I needed proof if I was going to do anything about it. So I hatched a plan. I ordered a small, inexpensive item, a phone charger I didn't really need, and then I set up a tiny camera facing my apartment door. It was one of those security cameras disguised as a smoke detector. Completely legal in common areas of my own property. I checked. Then I waited. Sure enough, the day my package was scheduled to arrive, I got the delivery notification. I was working, so I didn't immediately check the door. About 20 minutes later, my camera caught movement. There she was, 3C, sidling up to my door, looking around furtively, then quickly snatching the package and walking away with it. She didn't even try to hide what she was doing. She just took it, bold as brass, and went back to her own apartment. I watched the footage 3 times, feeling a mix of vindication and outrage. I'd been right, but being right didn't make me feel any better. What kind of person steals their neighbor's packages because they think they order too much? I considered confronting her directly, but decided against it. If she was brazen enough to steal in broad daylight, who knows how she'd react to being called out. Instead, I downloaded the video and took it to the building manager. "Building manager, I'm very sorry this happened to you. This is a serious matter. I'll speak with her immediately." The building manager was appropriately shocked and promised to handle the situation. He called me the next day to say he'd spoken with her, and she denied everything until he mentioned the video evidence. Then she'd claimed she was just holding the packages for safekeeping because she was concerned about theft in the building. Right. He'd given her a warning and told her that any further incidents would result in eviction proceedings. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. For about a week, things were quiet. Then my packages started disappearing again. This time, though, she was careful to avoid my camera, somehow snagging the deliveries before they even reached my door. I knew it was still her. The timing was too suspicious, but I couldn't prove it. I needed a better plan. I decided to set a trap. I ordered something important looking that would be clearly illegal to tamper with. After some research, I found a legal document preparation service that would send official-looking paperwork via trackable delivery. I paid extra for a signature-required delivery and a special note stating "legal documents addressee only" on the envelope. The day it was supposed to arrive, I pretended to leave for the day, making sure to make noise as I exited the building. But instead of leaving, I waited in the stairwell near my floor. About an hour later, the delivery person arrived. From my hiding spot, I watched as they approached my door, knocked, and when no one answered, they left the package with signature-required stickers all over it in the designated package area. They'd violated their own policy, but that worked in my favor. I continued to wait. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, the woman from 3C appeared, checking the package area. She picked up my legal envelope, examined it, and instead of taking it back to her apartment, she opened it right there in the hallway. I stepped out from the stairwell. "What are you doing with my mail?" She jumped, nearly dropping the now opened envelope. "Woman from 3C, I was just checking who it belonged to. It was left unattended, and it has my name and apartment number clearly written on it," I interrupted, pointing to the label. "And you've opened it. That's a federal offense." "Woman from 3C, don't be ridiculous." I was trying to help. "These could have been left for anyone to take." "Like you've been taking all my other packages?" I asked. "I have video of you stealing from me. And now you're opening my legal documents. I'm calling the police." Her face went from indignant to panicked in an instant. "Woman from 3C, wait. There's no need to involve the authorities. This is just a misunderstanding between neighbors." "A misunderstanding? You've been stealing my mail for months because you think I order too much stuff. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a crime." I pulled out my phone and dialed, watching as she grew increasingly agitated. "Woman from 3C, you're making a big mistake. I know people in this building. The management will side with me. I've lived here for 12 years. But her threats were empty, and I think she knew it." When the police arrived 30 minutes later, I showed them the video of her previous theft and the open legal document, which she dropped on the floor in her haste to make excuses. The officers took my statement and then spoke to her privately. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw her face grow increasingly pale. It turned out that opening someone else's mail is indeed a federal offense, and signing for packages under someone else's name constitutes identity fraud. They ended up taking her to the station for further questioning. I later learned that this wasn't her first run-in with the law regarding mail-related offenses. Apparently, she'd done something similar at her previous residence, which made this a much more serious situation for her. The building manager approached me the next day, extremely apologetic. Building manager, I had no idea things had escalated to this point. I assure you, we're beginning eviction proceedings immediately. This kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. I appreciated his concern, but was more relieved that the package thief would no longer be my neighbor. It took a few weeks for the legal process to wind its way through the system, but eventually, apartment 3C emptied out. She was charged with mail theft, identity fraud, and violating her previous probation terms for similar offenses. As for me, I still order just as much stuff online, maybe even more now, and every time a package arrives safely at my door, I feel a small sense of victory. The new tenant in 3C is a quiet college student who couldn't care less about my delivery habits. Sometimes I see her in the hallway, arms full of her own Amazon packages, and we share a knowing smile. Order as much as you want. I think it's no one's business but your own. And if there's one thing I've learned from this whole experience, it's this. Some people have way too much time on their hands, worrying about what others are doing. But karma has a way of delivering justice, sometimes right to your doorstep. Story 4. My wife was 7 months pregnant at the time. We were excited about our first child, but the pregnancy hadn't been easy. She had developed some complications that left her constantly exhausted and made walking difficult, especially in the summer heat. Because of this, I'd gotten into the habit of having her wait comfortably in the air-conditioned car with her feet up whenever I needed to run errands. That particular day, we were on our way back from her doctor's appointment. Her ankles were swollen, and she was feeling lightheaded, so I suggested stopping for some cold drinks and snacks. I pulled into the local gas station, parked in a regular spot near the entrance, and made sure my wife was comfortable before heading inside. Me, do you want anything specific? Wife, maybe some ginger ale and those crackers I like. And could you turn up the AC before you go? Me, of course. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Text me if you think of anything else. I adjusted the AC, made sure her phone was within reach, and locked the doors, a habit my dad had drilled into me. Our car wasn't fancy, just a reliable 5-year-old sedan we bought together when we got married, but it was clean and well-maintained. The gas station was busy, but not crowded. I grabbed a basket and started collecting our items: ginger ale, crackers, some fruit, and a sandwich for myself. I was comparing prices on bottled water when I heard shouting from outside. Something about the tone made me uneasy, so I moved to the window. What I saw made my blood run cold. A middle-aged couple was standing beside our car, and the woman was gesturing wildly at my wife through the window. My wife looked alarmed, one hand protectively over her belly. I abandoned my basket and rushed outside. As I approached, I could hear the woman's shrill voice. "Woman, get out of there right now. That's our reserved spot, our reserved seat." Her husband stood beside her, arms crossed, nodding vigorously at everything she said. My wife had rolled down the window just a crack, trying to explain something, but the woman kept interrupting her. Me, excuse me, what's going on here? The woman spun around to face me, her expression a mix of outrage and triumph. Woman, are you with her? You need to move your car immediately. This is our reserved waiting spot. I stepped between her and our car, confused but trying to stay calm. Me, this is our car. My wife is pregnant and waiting for me while I shop inside. Woman, I don't care if she's the Queen of England. We always sit here when my husband gets gas. It's our spot. We're here every Tuesday. I looked around, baffled. We were in a regular parking spot, not a handicapped space, not at a charging station, just a normal spot in a public gas station. Me, ma'am, this is a public parking space. There's no reservation system. The woman's husband finally spoke up. Husband, we've been coming here for years. The staff knows us. We always park here and wait. Woman, my husband has a routine. He needs this spot. Your wife needs to get out of our car. That's when I realized she wasn't just claiming the parking spot, she was somehow claiming our actual car as their waiting area. The absurdity of it might have been funny if she hadn't been so aggressive. Me, look, this is our car. We own it. My wife is pregnant and needs to rest. There are plenty of other parking spots, or you can wait inside the gas station. The woman's face turned an alarming shade of red. Woman, you're lying. The attendant lets us use this spot and this nice car to wait in. You're trying to steal our spot. At this point, my wife rolled the window down a bit more. Wife, please leave us alone. I'm not feeling well, and this stress isn't good for the baby. This seemed to enrage the woman further. She grabbed our door handle and started yanking on it, trying to force it open. Thankfully, the doors were locked. Woman, get out of my waiting seat right now. I need to sit down. My wife hit the panic button on our key fob, setting off the car alarm. The loud noise drew attention from everyone at the gas station, including the clerk, who came rushing out. Gas station clerk, what's happening here? The woman immediately turned to the clerk, pointing accusingly at us. Woman, these people stole our waiting car. Tell them. Tell them how you let us sit in this nice car every Tuesday while my husband gets his gas and lottery tickets. The clerk looked completely bewildered. Gas station clerk, ma'am, I have no idea what you're talking about. We don't offer any car waiting service. Woman, don't lie. You're covering for them. Call your manager. While this bizarre exchange was happening, I noticed the woman's husband trying to peer through our windows, cupping his hands against the glass and examining the interior of our car. My wife had retreated to the far side of her seat, looking terrified. Me, sir, please step away from our car right now. Husband, this does look different. They must have changed the seat covers. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I took out my phone and started recording, which only infuriated the woman more. She tried to snatch my phone away. Woman, stop recording me. This is harassment. The clerk had pulled out his own phone. Gas station clerk, I'm calling the police. This has gone too far. Woman, good, call them. They'll make these thieves give us back our waiting spot. I went to stand by my wife's door protectively. The woman followed me, still yelling. Woman, you can't just come to a gas station with a fake pregnant belly and steal someone's reserved car. We've been waiting for our spot all week. I was no longer confused, I was angry. This woman was not just entitled, she seemed completely detached from reality. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm for my wife's sake. Me, this is our car. Here's the registration with our names on it. I pulled the registration from the glove compartment and held it up to the window. The woman barely glanced at it. Woman, that's fake. You made that on your computer. By this point, a small crowd had gathered. Most people were keeping their distance, but a few kind souls approached to ask if we needed help. One elderly gentleman stood near us, saying he'd witnessed everything and would tell the police what he saw. The police arrived surprisingly quickly, 2 officers in a patrol car. They approached cautiously, taking in the scene. Officer, what seems to be the problem here? Before I could speak, the woman launched into her bizarre story. Woman, these people stole our waiting car. We have a standing reservation with this gas station to use this car as a waiting area every Tuesday while my husband gets gas and plays the lottery. They put this fake pregnant lady in our seat. The officers exchanged glances, and one of them pulled the clerk aside while the other began taking my statement. I explained the situation as calmly as I could, showing him our registration, insurance card, and even photos of us with the car on my phone. My wife stayed in the car, too shaken to get out, but rolled down the window to confirm my account of what happened. The elderly bystander also corroborated our story, describing how the woman had tried to force her way into our car. The officers asked the woman and her husband for identification and their vehicle registration. It turned out they did own a car, a completely different make and model, parked at a pump on the other side of the station. After checking everyone's documents and taking statements, the officers pulled the couple aside for a private conversation. We couldn't hear what was said, but the woman's face cycled through expressions of indignation, disbelief, and eventually defeat. One officer returned to us. "Officer, sir, ma'am, I apologize for what you've experienced today. It appears this individual is suffering from some confusion. However, her actions crossed several legal lines. She attempted to enter your vehicle unlawfully, which constitutes attempted vehicle theft, and she created a public disturbance." The woman was handcuffed and placed in the patrol car, still protesting loudly. Her husband wasn't arrested, but was sternly warned about encouraging her dangerous behavior. The officer explained they would be pursuing charges for attempted vehicle theft, disorderly conduct, and possibly assault for trying to grab my phone. "Officer, we'll need statements from both of you at the station, but it doesn't have to be right now. I can see your wife isn't feeling well. You can come by tomorrow." I thanked the officer and the kind bystanders who had stayed to support us. The gas station clerk apologized profusely and gave us our drinks and snacks for free, along with a gift card for our next visit. Once things had calmed down, I drove my shaken wife home and made sure she was comfortable. She was understandably upset, but both she and the baby were fine. The next day, we went to the police station to give our formal statements. We later learned that the woman had been ordered to undergo a psychological evaluation and was placed on probation. She was also banned from the gas station. According to the clerk, whom we befriended after the incident, the couple had indeed been regular customers, but there had never been any reserved car arrangement. No one knows what triggered the delusion that our car was somehow public property designated for their comfort. The whole experience was surreal, frightening, and infuriating all at once. But it did have one positive outcome. Our neighbors and community rallied around us with support and kindness, bringing meals and checking in on my wife throughout the rest of her pregnancy. Our daughter was born healthy 2 months later. And yes, we still use that gas station, though I never leave my wife alone in the car there anymore, pregnant or not.